Call on Government Orders of the Day numbers 25 to 27.
Education Legislation Bill, Committee stage continued. Building Pools Amendment Bill, Committee stage. Health Practitioners Replacement of Statutory References to Medical Practitioners Bill, Committee stage.
I declare the House in committee for further consideration of the Education Legislation Bill and for consideration of the Building Pools Amendment Bill and the Health Practitioners Replacement of Statutory References to Medical Practitioners Bill. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker.
Right, who's speaking?
The House and Committee for further consideration of the Education Legislation Bill and for consideration of the Building Pools Amendment Bill and the Health Practitioners Replacement of Statutory References to Medical Practitioners Bill. Members, we turn first to the Education Legislation Bill. When we were last considering this bill, we were debating clauses 1 and 2. Chris Hipkins has the call, and if he wishes, he has 15 seconds.
Mr. Chairman, I do indeed, because I was robbed, because the clock was wrong when I was last contributing. So I hope that the chair will regard me, will view me kindly and give me an additional 5 minutes to talk on the Education Legislation Bill, as I fill the role that I occupied prior to Shane Jones's valedictory, Mr. Chair. Of helping to fill in the time until the Honourable Phil Goff has the opportunity to do his valedictory in somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes from now. The Education Legislation Bill is somewhat of a disappointment of a bill as we get into the concluding parts of this debate around the title and commencement, because it contains a number of provisions that are uncontroversial and really could be included in a statutes amendment bill without troubling the House, without taking up any of the House's time. And then it includes some that are a little more controversial. We've been through those in detail, but to sum up some of the more controversial changes, the bill does allow for charter schools to be operated by tertiary education institutions, or in particular polytechs and universities. The universities universally said they didn't want to do that. The polytechs, of course, are the ones who have indicated that they want to do that. Some of them, there are serious concerns about their ability to manage their existing business without having to take on the responsibility of a charter school. The bill extends school opening hours, or allows schools to change their opening hours and in consultation with their community. And of course that creates some issues for parents where they may have different kids going to different schools with different opening hours, and the logistical nightmare that could be. The bill allows principals to run more than one school. And the government, throughout the committee stage, we put a number of questions to Hiki Aparata about how that would actually work, and the government were unable to answer any questions about the ultimate accountability for a school principal who is managing more than one school. The bill extends out-of-school care provision to early childhood education providers, so home-based early childhood education providers. I want to say at the outset here that we made a number of changes to these provisions in Select Committee to ensure that there were adequate adult-to-child ratios, and we certainly welcomed the government's pragmatism on those, although we do still have some quality concerns around how out-of-school care for older kids will be managed by those providers whose primary duty is to manage early childhood education kids. There are some other things that the bill does, but perhaps the most controversial is the establishment of a new beginning teacher position, which was not thoroughly debated by the Select Committee because it was tabled only a few weeks before the Select Committee was due to be reporting back the bill to the House. And those amendments were incorporated by a majority. They create a new teacher position called a trainee teacher. They allow the Ministry of Education, or the Minister through the Ministry of Education, to impose that on a school. And that was incredibly controversial. It deals with some of the issues that were canvassed around the Teach First program, but actually goes much wider than that. And we had the opportunity to debate that, but the Minister of Education was unable to provide reassurance around how that position might be used, whether that position would be over and above the existing staffing entitlement for schools, and as a result, the Labor Party, of that particular amendment, the Labor Party still cannot support that. We certainly can't support the provisions that allow for charter schools to be operated by tertiary education providers. We have concerns around principals running more than one school and schools being able to change their opening hours. With those factors in mind, we'll be voting against the bill, although I would say some of those other minor amendments, updating amendments, particularly the amendments in Part 2, are supported by the Labor members of the House, and we have voted in favour of those, but the totality of the changes means that we cannot support the bill as a whole. Thank you.